Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'dahu wa ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May his peace and blessings, salutations be bestowed upon his beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the one who fought tooth and nail for Islam to get to every corner of the world. We request Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy unto him and to whoever is to follow his footsteps till the day of judgment. Allahumma Ameen. I would like to welcome you all on the continuation, or to the continuation of our Islamic dating and marriage series. I understand, being an academic year, a new academic year, we might be having new faces and you might find it a bit confusing. Okubanga, we are not going to get back where we started from, but we shall find a way of trying to make sure you're not lost and you find relevance in you being here. So inshallah, don't worry, you will also learn and understand whatever we shall be saying, inshallah. Just in case you pick interest into what we discussed previously, it is recorded on different platforms. Al Hidayah Islam Media is a platform having all episodes. Sheikh Hussein Ali Bulaf, my official pages, YouTube in particular, all episodes are there. Lectures from the first episode to episode number 40 something, I'm not sure. So we are just proceeding with the topics just like they were in place. Now today I want us to discuss the sensitivity in marriage. Marriage being a sensitive relationship, a sensitive entity, a sensitive combination of two adults. I want us to focus on how sensitive marriage is, because it happens today. A lot is happening, a lot of delusional factors are there, driving us from the reality to what seems to be like the reality. And the number one opening question, as usual, is it a must that your husband is supposed to be everything, or maybe your wife is supposed to be your everything? Is it understandable? That is my question for today. What do you think about it? Is it a must? Sheikh Lubega. Omuchala, is it a must that your spouse must be your everything? Yes.
اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. According to my understanding, I think according to the question you have asked us, I say no. And my reason is my wife or your husband, a lady, should not be your everything. Why? First of all, there is a certain level my spouse has to be whatever she is to me. Why do I say so? The reason as why I say so is we have shortcomings in life, and that might be
okay, explain.
No, maybe I've started from that side, but I might be having life, rather love, but let me start from that side. That my wife should not be everything, because you may never know. There might be some shortcomings in our marriage. This wife, your husband, can reach a time and says, I no longer have any feelings for you. Leave my house. I no longer want you to be my wife. You make talak. You may never know. I've not said that every person in his marriage is like that. No. But you may never know.
Okay. So literally abantu bano abafumbo wano tebalina ku prioritizinga that nti partner wa ina kubeera buli kimu.
According to me, aina wali no koma.
Aina limitations is it?
Because also I don't think that if you are married, you shouldn't be with secrets. I don't think that's...
It's possible to be married and as a husband you have
you have something that your wife doesn't know.
Okay.
You might have a husband and he doesn't know something.
Mashallah.
So according
like what
to
secret, for example?
Allah God.
Like what secret?
Oyinza okuba like you might have problems in your family where you come from.
Nga tosobola kumugaga buli kimu.
Yes. Togenda kuvaayo mugambe omanyi nti tata wange ne mama wange. But you are not going to tell her everything. Yes.
Mashallah. Barakallahu fikum. Aha to sene brother Nsebyo seka Elias tusali kumbachala.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
For me, at my view, why would you allow someone to see you naked and you can't trust someone with your secret? For me, on my side, I think.
So your analogy is if they know your nakedness,
yeah,
they're supposed to know every secret of you.
Yeah, because my body is my first secret. That's my... Omuntu watuukira okumanya wenna.
What is the connection between
kiki kyoba okweka?
Secrets?
I feel like that's ekitiibwa ekyo kyeweewa.
Like the biggest secret bwereere bwo
your body
obumuwe. So basically oteekeddwa okuba nga omweyabiza.
Yeah.
In anything.
Yes, in my view.
So your position is the wife is supposed to be everything to you.
Can it be?
Just like she can't be.
Yeah. There's also
so when isn't she everything?
Since in Islam we have an open door of divorce, she can't be everything. So even on this side she can't be everything. It's a two-sided way.
Kayinza koma n'ogamba nti wano nno sijja ssosaawo mukazi wange. Limitation is kyeyo.
Ekyo kibuuzo kizibu seeka kinnyinze.
Oba mukyala wo yazze wano ng'otidde
ndi mu banoonya seeka.
Mashallah. Seeka Elias. Yes. Mashallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
barakatuh.
According to my view, my wife should not be everything to me.
Should not be.
If at a point Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take our divorce to Allah, that means nge atutonda yalabanga maaso awo basoba misunderstandings. If it is there is a point my parents nga basobola okunkangamba okundyamu olukuba abatali abange, that means what about my wife? Because tulabye ensonga nyingi ng'omukazi akoze ekiteetaagisa ku bbaawe. At a point ng'amulangira n'omulangira, that means wembanga ali everything to me. Nga Ssekalubega we yagambye nga mubuulira buli kimu, that means asobola okutuuka ekiseera n'andyamu olukwe.
Ekitegeeza teweeteekera.
Seeteekera. Olaba n'omutonzi kennyini yateekawo divorce yamanya maaso awasobbaawo misunderstandings.
How can you be a loving husband and this husband who has limitations with your wife? How do you balance?
There are things that we can do to show love. Okumukakasa nti mwaje ebitu bikola mu bungi ne tubeerako ne portion yemu ng'omuntu gy'owerekereza. Yes.
Okay. Mashallah. Barakallahu fikum. Abakyala temuyina tusigale eno? Waliyo. Katusookere eno then. Yes. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hajjati kitiibwa.
Yes.
Badde sikutegedde. Should a husband be everything?
I'll start with a statement. First of all, if I'm not mistaken, marriage completes half of...
ya Rabbi. Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, marriage completes half of our deen. It does not complete our deen. I'll start from there. What I believe we need to understand is that marriage is a contract. There's a reason I'm starting from there. This means that for the spouse, for my husband, or in the case of the man, for their wife, each person in that contract has rights and responsibilities. So I would believe that ideally you should be able to respect and protect each other's rights within that contract, but that doesn't mean that contract is your lifeline. I'll give you an example. There are certain marriages that actually ruin the relationships between the woman and her own family. Ngomwami ataddeko ebikwakulizo ebitasoboka. Amugamba, you can't move anywhere, which means tamukiriza kwogera even with the parents, even with the siblings, even with, they've put some kind of barrier. Yes. Ngabakutemyeko. So that's why I've said it's a contract. But a contract doesn't make it your lifeline. So it starts from you understanding what really is the word marriage. What defines a husband? What defines a wife?
MashaAllah. Marriage is a contract. Bantu mubitekamu nnyo obwagazi. People have it in mind. Tikasaba fumbirwa. Ensi yabwe ekoze eki? Etandise. Ate nga tulimu bangi mu nsi muno. Yes. Sekatwali kajambo mukama wange. Imam Murtaba kajambo sebo. Yes. Do you have anyone else? Tumuina okutesa tusali tusigitudde no? Yes, a sister. Yes. Wa alaikum salaam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Chainze ndowooza nti sinzira ku nature y'omuntu gowangala naye.
Olowooza nkuwulira mwannyinaze oba osembereko waneeno nkuwulire bulungi? Olowooza omusajja ono asobola okuba buli kimu?
Sinzira ku nature y'omuntu. Eri omuntu ng'alina emmizi, bw'osobola omugamba ekintu n'akisolvinga ne kiggweerawo. Eri omuntu gw'ojja okigamba, gamba emikwano gye, ba brothers be, kati nga at the end of the day gw'ojja okuswala. Kati kisinzira ku nature y'omuntu, empisa ze, endowooza ye, n'olyoka naawe omuconsideringa either okubwako nekyomugamba oba kyomukolera mu mbeera bwetyo.
Ekitegeeza kisoboka okubanga omuntu bbaawo naye nga mulina limitations zammwe olina wootasukka.
Kisoboka ng'omanyi nti wemugambira kino ekyama buli omu agenda kuntegeera. Ze wendowooza nga nze.
Mashallah. Barakallahu fikum. Yes, sister.
Assalamu
bakambwe.
alaikum.
Wa alaikum salaam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sekanze mbadde ndowooza. Ekibuuzo ekisooka lwaki mba nfumbirwa omusajja gwesitawuliriramu mirembe. The moment we get married, nze omusajja aba afuuse byonna. Kubanga the moment wonzija ewaffe nendekayo emmere obuliri nenzija ewuwo mu kazigoko mba nfuuse byonna. Kubanga we onaalema obbimala ani anaabimalira?
Byonna bye biki byotegeeza? Sibanga tuli mu ango za njawulo. Byonna ki byotegeeza? For example, kaŋŋambe ekyokulabirako ekyangu, baawo waba tamanyi kusesa oba oyagala akoleyo kakoosi k'okuba comedian awo
aba alina obbiyiga seeka,
alina obbiyiga akusese.
Kuba wotansese you are creating room
for someone else.
Yes. Kyotasobola omulala akisobola. Oba tosobola kukola kunsanyusa omulala ajja kunsanyusa. Kati olw'okuba mba nfuuse buvunaanyizibwa bwo
ayiribe naawe.
Yes.
Kyekyo owulira mmwe nsonga nkulu nno. Should your husband be everything? Yes. Tewali muweddeyo? Alhamdulillah. Seka Sultani wabadde n'akasonga saagala kampiteko buyisi then ntandike inshallah. Yes. Ensonga eno nkulu wallahi kubanga obufumbo bwa leero butagadde because of stuff that are not being addressed. We are going to discuss many things inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi
Alaikum salam
wabarakatuh.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Imran Sharif Sultan, my name is. Sheikh, ku kibuuzo ky'obuuziza, this is my perspective. On my side it's a no.
It's a no.
Why? Yeah, it's a no.
Omukyala tomwagala.
No. I shall explain.
Okay.
Ekisookera ddala, there is no way someone gy'osobola gamba nti your wife, nja kwogera ku side yaffe ng'abasajja, nja kwogera nnyo ku eno side kubanga for them I don't know. Naye nze ng'omusajja I don't think that one can ever be possible. Olw'ensonga nti sometimes what I know that can happen, you can prioritize her over you. Like mu bintu ebimu you can make her a priority. Ekitegeera nomanya nti kino even ebimu ng'obadde obyagala but for her sake noga nti kino kankireke kisobole okuyisaawo kino ekya mukyala wange. So at times you can make her a priority mu bintu byolaba nti badde byetaagisa, but making her your everything, I boldly say it's merely impossible ne bwoba ng'obadde okyagala, kubanga the sister just mentioned it nti ne marriage ejjuza kitundu kya ddiini, tejjuza ddiini wabula ejjuza ki ku saidi y'abasajja. Allah yagulira namba 2 bamugulira omulyango ne namba 3 ne namba 4, si bwe kiri? So if bwebanga waliwo any possibility of someone being your everything, I don't think that kyalibadde Allah yalibadde agulawo gwo omulyango n'agulira owokubiri n'owokusatu n'owokuna. So I boldly say that someone being your everything is merely impossible. Ne bwobanga wali kyagadde kiyinza obutasoboka.
Tasobola kuba buli kimu.
Tasobola.
Kubanga omulabye ku myaka 3. You've lived on this earth for 30 years dealing with many people. And all of a sudden she's everything. What
I agree with is she can be a priority.
Yeah. She's a priority but not everything.
But she cannot be everything.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi.
Barakallahu fikum. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Now, I would like to prepare my audience. Amazima gali nti we need to understand that marriage as a fact is a very sensitive relationship. Because many of us don't know how sensitive marriage is, we think marriage is just like a relationship of having a friend. We think marriage is just a relationship, just like a relationship of your relatives, not knowing the sensitivity within marriage is too much alarming as compared to the sensitivity within other relationships. When it's your brother and sister, it's pretty easy because you're bloodly related. Now, the sensitivity of that relationship, eyinza okubanga newebe yakutagala, the chances are high that you're too much limited in the way you're going to conduct yourself because of the reality that you're related. If you are friends, it's the same situation. If you love a friend, you're going to show it. If you don't love them, you have very many options. But now the sensitivity in marriage is in the following factors. Factor number 1, it is the only relationship that has the ability to expose the bad character in you after you're in it. And thank you very much, today's couples. You're too good into pretending before marriage. And the moment you switch to marriage, we are like the reality is waiting for you. The sensitivity of the marriage is like, it is a possibility you might get at a point where you're going to hate your husband to the bone. What is your skill that is going to make you go through that second, that moment, that day without divorcing him, because tomorrow you might turn out loving them more? Now, this is how sensitive marriage is. Time is going to come as a husband, you're going to hate your wife to the bone for many reasons. Maybe she's being too much emotional where she needs to be logical, or maybe. The sensitivity in marriage wants a man in this case to understand that even when you're hating your wife at that particular moment, how are you going to go through that moment and that day, that week, without slapping her, without demeaning her, without abusing her, and without being violent with her. Now, it takes someone who understands this sensitivity to understand you're going to sleep with someone under the same blanket without even attempting to kill them. If it is your friend, as early as them making you annoyed, you block them as simple as possible. Toina budde bwa kumala na muntu akunyiziza ngo mblockinga. Your friend, you don't like them, you're not going to go and relate with them as simple as possible. You have very many options. Your wife and husband, the sensitivity in it is, even when at that particular moment tobaagala, you're going to still stay with them. Now, that sensitivity has to be understood and appreciated by everyone who claims they are in marriage and everyone who claims they understand marriage. But what you mean, you're going to deal with a human being in an entity like marriage, please get to understand that that sensitivity is there. The reason as why I asked the question, must your spouse be everything? These are some of the delusional factors that are killing many marriages just because we are unserious to a level. You don't even have a skill of separating different relationships. This is why you're going to appreciate realities. Ntikati ne mama wabawo nyazaalawo is now a threat to your relationship. Ne tato wo muwalo lokuba bagula nnyo ne muwalawe kati he's also a threat to your relationship. Not knowing being a husband to your wife is something, and being a comedian to your wife is also something else. Being a joker to your wife is also something else. Remember, as this wife is trying to pin you and choose you as a husband, anonya musajja ali serious leader, tanonya munnakatemba. Chances are high, because of the sensitivity of marriage, you need to understand all these dynamics. Ngabe tugenda okuziraba wano, and the objective of today's session is njagala tubeera abantu abakulu, mature people, because jukira abaana abatoto abagoba dda mu bufumbo. We don't need young kids in marriage. Marriage is not for people who are immature mu bwongo. Marriage is for people abakuzeekuzeemuko mu mibiri ne mu ndowooza. Because if you just prioritize okula mu mubiri because you have desires, chances are high you're going to miss out these whole dynamics of sensitivity when it comes within marriage, and the marriage is going to be at stake, and no one would like to start marriage ng'akimanyi tenkeera obufumbo bugenda kukola ki bugenda kuggwaawo. Now that's why I prepared the following factors. The marriage, the sensitivity within marriage helps you get to know the bad characters within your spouse. Zotanditegedde oba oli awo before. If you're married and you're here, you know what I'm talking about. Nga mubeera abalungi wano before marriage. Omanyina okwekubakawo mukyala otakulira nkongo owunya, because definitely tonnamuwasa. Chances are high okubanga they are going to know, you're going to get to know that your partner is greedy after marriage. Because you're staying in the same house, you're eating on the same meals, that's when you're going to get to know them. Now, because of the sensitivity in marriage, we are not training anyone that is going to come across any of those bad characters. The option is dukayo. They have to understand it is a reality. Tikisobokera ddala okubanga ofunye omukyala nga wa mululu. Ngera wekisoboka okubanga ofunye omusajja nga wa muki? Wa mululu. They are greedy partners. Now we are going to task you, what have you done? What is your plan? What is your skill? How are you going to go through this reality with this partner? Do you have a plan for that? If the answer is yes, webale nnyo tukiikirira bulungi. If the answer is no, webale tuswaza. The second factor is communication boundaries. Because people who are in marriage basically think they have no boundaries when it comes to communication. Do you want me to bring examples? Maybe your wife is partially beautiful. It is a reality. Your wife is not the most beautiful creature on earth. The communication, the sensitivity in marriage is ne woba oyomba otya, ne woba okomentinga, ne woba osaaga, ennyindo gireke, yogera ku birala. Now that doesn't happen with a friend, because when someone is a friend alina kwogera bwogezi nga takola ki? Yahe mulina okumanya nti when it's a contract, just like Kitibwa said, contract ey'abantu ababiri nga mwenna mulina emotions and feelings, you need to understand this reality. You have boundaries as you're relating with others. Even when you've walked around campus or maybe around town, n'ofuna omusajja nga machi wo mulungi akukolera, you need to know that it is sensitive to address that with your husband. Kati mbolokuba mukwatagana nnyo, you're now starting the discussion. Just oba bantu kubula byakunyumya. I've been walking in town, I came across this gentleman. Just know he has been perfect, 100%. I just wish he's the man who married me. Mbolokuba your best friends. You get to a time of being too much delusional. Even before marriage, you were friends, and this man were like, I want to be more than a friend. Now you're now more than a friend. Your husbands and wives, you're now requesting, I want to be back down to be a friend. You're just a confused generation. Being a husband and a wife is far better, by far. Asingira wala nnyo, byakumanyiko bingi mukwano gwo byatakola ki? But knowing the sensitivity with marriage comes, okumanya nti even when I'm a husband and a wife, even when we are in this relationship together, we need to have boundaries when it comes to communication, because literally you can't put that aside okujja konga that relationship is going to be provoked. Now if we have this approach, mweyononedde obufumbo bwammwe ge mazima. That is the creation of your own. You have spoiled your marriages. Mwe mulowooza obufumbo butambulanga ab'emikwano. Gy'oli olina mukwano gwe w'amahare. Mwe mulowooza marriage has to move like the relationship you have with your brothers and sisters. This is the same fact as to why when people get married today, mbukati nsi yaabwe, batandise ensi yaabwe, akayumba kaabwe, betegeera bokka. And everyone in their lives socially doesn't matter. They are the only one that matters. It is impossible. Now, every husband that is in marriage, every wife that is in marriage has to understand there must be communication boundaries respectfully, because of one reason, because of the sensitivity within marriage. Nga bw'onaaba tolina boundary eyo, you're going to affect your partner emotionally, and that affecting them emotionally, it is an impact on the marriage you need to keep for 20 years. Now you know your husband is short. That is a fact. And you're watching a video of people demeaning short people, you're smiling loudly. Yeah, that act alone, even when he's going to pretend to be a loving husband, it is okay, I understand my wife, it will sit within him. Tomorrow he won't understand that. The next day you're going to be a disrespecting wife. Kumanga, you don't have boundaries as you're communicating. Now Islam wants to come in. Naam Doctor, marhaba. Islam comes to direct the young couples, the young husband and the young wives, to understand that if marriage is a contract, then at least you have to be sensitive when it. Aren't you aware of the Prophet's narrations? Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir falyaqul khayran aw liyasmut. Now this is a principle. Prophet was like, if you really believe in the last day of judgment and you believe in the Prophet, you need to understand that it is a principle to always speak good. If you have nothing good to say, then keep quiet. Now it doesn't only apply within friends, it doesn't only apply within relatives, and it applies in all relationships. The sensitivity of marriage dictates that the boundaries ziteekeddwa okubeerawo. If you really want to be a happy couple, you have to understand your limits when it comes to communication to your husband. You have to also understand the limits of you when it comes to talking to your wife. Of course, with respecting realities that come with that. If you don't do that, then it's something that is really going to affect you. For example, filtering. filtering the conversations, different conversations. How dare you sit down your wife and you're now trying to narrate to them how your dad confessed to you the sin he did in his 20s. Bimukwatitako wa? Aren't you aware mbo olwokuba kati mukwatagana nnyo your wife and husband mutandise ensi yammwe. Now you are shaming your father in front of her. Aren't you aware that that information alone is going to lead her to disrespect your father somehow? Are you waiting for a sheikh also to teach you that these ladies are too poor when it comes to hiding emotions? Just when you focus n'omulengera nti omukyalo ono wabanga yakuwuliddeko ekikyamu ne waba munnakatemba atya, you will easily read if you focus. Now you're busy talking about your brothers, your sisters, your mother, your whole family, the bad things of your whole family to the wife, and you expect the same wife to respect everyone. You've done what? You've disrespected in front of her. Does that make sense to you? Definitely no. Why? You don't have boundaries. You're a mature person who doesn't have boundaries as you're communicating. That skill is supposed to be within people who are starting up a family. How dare you start demeaning your father and your mother? Notandiko mujerega mumaso gani gabao. You know my husband, my mother is a rumor monger. The whole society knows my mother is a rumor monger. My mother is too disrespectful. Wallahi, my mother. Try your level best to make sure, even when you're narrating something negative about your family to him, you package it in a way that you're respecting the sensitivity of that. You need him to respect the same woman as the mother-in-law, and at the same time, you need to actually conduct yourself in a more respectful way. Now, there is no way you're going to filter these conversations if you're someone who thinks my husband must be my everything, no communication boundaries, we need to be just too much open. The fact is, even when you don't know the negative stuff about the father of your husband, it has no direct impact to your marriage. Mukyasobola okubeera abafumbo abasanyufu nga totegedde kabenje ka sezaalawo. True or false? Naye ndowooza abantu ab'olugambo be bayingira ennyo obufumbo. Ashirafu nsanyusa okukulaba. Ziwa Nsanzi. Alaikum salaam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Abantu ab'olugambo bano be batutidde obufumbo. Kati omusajja ayingira obufumbo nga wa lugambo, n'omukyala n'ayingira obufumbo nga wa lugambo. Ne batandika okugeyageya buli muntu awo, okugeyageya buli muntu awo. Ebitiibwa ne biyiika. Dawuda kisoboka bali kisoboka? Kisoboka. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that understanding. Please, the sensitivity of marriage will dictate that. Atenze ntera no bibagamba, I'm not forcing you to take any guidance because this is a principle of Islam. Lasta alayhim bimusaytir. What we do is just give this guidance to the community. If you find sense in it, use it. If you don't, let other people use it. Yeah, but communication boundaries is something you really have to put emphasis on. Defecting your wife, bw'olwokuba musaagirira nnyo, mutandika okwejerega. Adag. You're busy defecting your wife. Bwe museka. The same defect, buli kyofulumyanga okumujerega. Because of the fact that they are too much insecure, omujereza obuddugavu. Buli wanaakulaba n'omuwala omweru, omukwana. Kati kino kyomba olinze bakikugambe. Communication boundaries. Woba wasa muntu wo. Know your limits when you're talking to them. It is very okay. Maybe your husband works in an embassy. Who told you to have a signing? If they are signing their appointments. Please, if you're married, everything that happens in this country, you have to make sure you inform your wife because you are married. It is a must. Wakikolera ekyo. It is bagita treason. Alidde mu nsi olukwe. Zambi nno ddene limuteesa kalabba. Now it is in the mind of your husband who works in an embassy to understand. Biki ebirina ofuluma, biki ebitateekeddwa fuluma, And you're supposed to also understand as a wife to such a husband, tiwaba kugambye it is okay, otekeddwa bimanya, kyaba takugambye it is okay, you're not directly attached to it. As simple as possible. Because communication is supposed to be having boundaries. Whatever we are talking about has nothing to do with loving each other. Find some other avenues to show that you love each other. It is not supposed to be in Lugambo. Do some other stuff that show that you love each other than that. The second factor, in line with the sensitivity of marriage, please learn to understand, because of the sensitivity in marriage, effective communication is supposed to be in line with what benefits you. It is today where you're going to find a couple that can't even define effective communication. Nayenga bafumbo. Atenga buli omu akibanja. Do you know that many couples today, what they call effective communication is rumor mongering? Olugambo kye kimu luzungu montase. What is lugambo in English? Rumor mongering. Backbiting, rumor mongering. That is effective communication to many people. Sitting down with your wife and you're talking about me, you're talking about your other friends, how short they are, how stubborn they are, but they are communicating. This couple betegeera nnyo because ba lugambo. Naye mubuuzeeko lwaki parliament etudde eggulu tasobola commentinga ku ekyo tebimukwata nako. Actually tabimanyi na bimanya, tamanyi na nsi bwetambula. And that is your wife and that is your husband. Now, what is effective communication? The sensitivity in marriage will definitely drive you to understanding effective communication has to be with something that benefits you. If it doesn't benefit you in that case, then it in most cases, if it doesn't even benefit the relationship you're building, then it has nothing to do with being effective in that case. Now, how many husbands effectively communicate with their wives matters that are constructive to make sure their marriage is just superb? Bameka? Of course, zero. Amazambi gemufuna ga kugeya. Just jamu okugeya we mutu mulabe kye kibagatta. Some people are anxious to a level nti amazima gali nti they have nothing that puts them together when it comes to communication. Bana abantu beerabira. Because of the sensitivity in marriage, kisobola okuleetera okulowooza nti you're incompatible just because you have little stuff that put you together ekibagatta mukwano. Ate kasito obugole buggwako kiwedde ekyo kati ogenda kutandika okubuuza nti naye omukyalo ono amazima gali nti when it comes to reasoning ategeera atya, avaluing atya ebintu, how does she analyze stuff? Now, if you think of the intelligence of your wife, if you think of how clever your wife is, that is a plus to love them more. If you think of how dense she is, if you think of even when she's too beautiful, it is a minus, even when you love them more. Kubakati the last is now satisfied. Omazo kwebaka naye and you have a kid, 2 kids and 3 kids. You need a plus that is going to ignite your being merciful. Omukwano guno gukole gutya gutambule. But all this is a minus kubanga temuli batendeke, tetuli batendeke. Effectiveness is supposed to be in that angle. Kati ng'omuntu omufumbo tula wansi ne weebuuzaamuko nti ki ekibagatta ne munno like effective communication yammwe yeeriwa. I pity young girls and young boys. What is effective communication? Please call me when you're going for work. Call me as you're coming back. Of course, that is a must. A husband calls when they are coming back home. It is not news. Effective communication, please tell me when you're very sad. Please tell me when you're too, like if you're unbothered, if you're too unfine, it is a must. You have to open up to me. It is very possible for a husband to be unfine and he's not willing to immediately open up to you. An example, maybe your husband is 35 years old, taina na plot ya taka, taina na business, alia umwavu. That is a reason to make your husband sad for a whole week. Just thinking about that. Alowozeza kubane bayina emyaka 35 bayina motoka bayina amaka bayina abaana ya aliawa ina gwewe kaya achievement jaina taina wotaka taina chaina atakaddiwa isn't it a reason for you to be sad? When you open that to your wife is just trained into does even your wife know how to appreciate that reality ngokyogedde? Of course, asubira nti you're going to butufu ekinyiziza, it's because I don't have a plot of land, I don't have a stable income, I'm just too unfine. Kati ono bamutendeka. If your husband does like that, mukwateko just kutamu mugambe, please, you're going to be fine. He knows he's going to be fine, but he is unfine because of the reality. Now chances are high that neobanga gwe musubira nti wona mugamba nti everything is going to be fine, mukati aseke nenga tagenda kuseka because he's still going through that constructive thinking. Now how are you going to navigate through all those dynamics mumbeera ngeyo ye mukyalawo takimanyi? Actually psychology even has it, even from the Islamic wisdom. Ebiseera ebisinga when someone is going through a constructive way of thinking, teyeetaaga nnyo kumuwembejja ngate bwatajja kwetaaga nnyo you as a wife, because of the sensitivity in marriage, kufuuka motivational speaker. You know your husband is going through a constructive way of thinking, alaba talina stable income, akaddiye, omwana ne fees talengera mwana wagenda kuzijja, ng'otandika kufuuka motivational speaker ate mwewasa ate your wife. The fact is, it is true. You are 35, you don't have anything, you're too ashaming. You just find ways. Wake up tomorrow. They're like, yeah, what you're doing is right, but you're not the right person to do that. He's expecting you to be too much understanding. Already agalina because he's thinking constructively. Bwaba singa yali tagayina singa tadiri mukulowooza constructively. Bino ebintu byonna byonna, the reason why I'm making hint of it too detailed in that case, to show you the sensitivity of whatever marriage you're going to be in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to the best, because we really need to understand these dynamics. Now from today onwards, differentiate between backbiting others and what you call effective communication. Train yourself, build the character that is very good when it comes to communication. If you're a husband, understand, because of the sensitivity in marriage, mukyala wali too much emotional. Ne woba wana omukyala gwolabye ku firimu oba asoma amawulire, tomuwaana, muwane wa mukwano gwo, mulenzi munno. Now this issue of starting to say that, no, my wife twetegeera, he will understand that I'm joking, he will understand that of course she's going to understand, but you don't want to take a risk of her not understanding. So the better is, have a filter. Omanye kikyogendo nyumya naye, kimugattako ki, kimukendeezaako ki. It will guide you into when to talk and how to talk and so on and so forth. The other issue is, you have to be in position, because of the sensitivity of marriage, to respect your partner's other relationships and knowing they are not threats to your marriage. Have you ever heard of a claim where young girls are like, they don't want to relate with your mothers? Mwali mukiwuliddeko? Mbukati ssebo ne oba weeyanjula as a man, n'ogeza n'ogamba I'm a mommy's boy, Katonda wattu, bano nga bakuziimuula, omusajja toyina magezi. True or false? Allah asaasire omulembe guno. But who is a mommy's boy, by the way? Let me ask from here. Who is a mommy's boy and who is a daddy's girl? Yeah, I want to start from that to explain this point. Aliwa waneno? Kati mwenda mwagala ba mommy's boy, mwagala kwefuula ba Hanani wuli, Hanani yasoose okuwanika. Hanani, who is a mommy's boy? Say engineer kasooka akwisa, I don't want to miss anything. Mommy's boy yani? Mommy's boy yakola atya?
Omwami nga newe muba muteesezza nti tugenda kukola kino, alina osooka okukubira mami, oba kale bwe baba banyumya ne maama we n'amunyumizaako ekintu kyonna kye mwayogeddeko, maama n'amugamba tukyuse tukole bwe bati, agenda kudda akugambe maama yagambye ekyo tukikyuse.
yagambye entebe zino tugule bweziti naye nga mama si yagenda obbeera ewaka ajja kujja akyale 1 day 2 days
kati ekitegeeza mami's boy yawuliriza maama we
asobola nokyusa decision simply because the mom
kati temumwagala musajja awuliriza maama we
nedda ayina owuliriza naye he's supposed to decide as him si maama we musalirawo mama asobola omuadvisinga naye ye nga ye n'engeri gy'ajja okukiŋŋambamu nti maama yakoze kino emataringa wajja n'akiŋŋamba nga idea ye nti nakirowoozezaamu n'enkyusaamuko kitegeerekeka naye okujja nondagirawo nti wabadde oŋŋambye tukole no business naye maama agambye tukole kino kibanga ekitegeeza your mom could be me
ate kibanga ekitegeeza your mom could be what
like almost mama waasobola
akagamba ako nkamisiza bannayiga ate nga ndaba kabadde kakulu mama ayinza okuba akola ki
kibanga ekitegeeza nti newe sibeerawo
like maama we kuggwe
no kituufu aba alina omusussa naye I'm not supposed to feel it
kugata kikulaga
okujjako nga nagambye nange nga ngamba nti twebuuze ku maama wano tulabe tukoze tutya naye still webanga idea sigibaddeemu it's better n'ogireeta nti yiyo si ya maama nawe woba ogenze ewa maama era osobola omugamba nti yiyo ne webanga yabadde yange
ate waba taata we nga gwe yeebuuzizzaako n'asalawo bulala
nga taata yasazeewo
taata we
kituukamukawo baba basajja na basajja
kugamba oyo talina buzibu
kale naye abeera n'obuzibu wabeera nga ideas zange nga gwe buli kaseera wenkuleetera idea ogikyusa n'ogenda n'eyooli at times idea yange ndowooza ne weeba nga si amakulu nnyo nga yadda lyesinga at some point okundaga nti ebyaddala nange ompuliriza you have to kutwalamu eyange ne weeba just once in a while okubalansinga
barakallahu fikum
wafikum baraka
Seka lwega badda wanise daddy's girl wamma osobola
ndoza nsoke njogere ku mami's boy
mami's boy
kansoke mami's boy
kyekyo
ndoza obuza who is mami's boy
mami's boy yani
mami's boy ndoza yono omuntu kantandikire mu buto bwe nga kantandikire mu buto bwe ndi mami's boy yono omuntu nga tata wali naye abadde nnyo ne maama ebiseera ebisinga oba kiri it is nature simanyi bamaama bano batera nnyo okwagala abalenzi bataata ne baagala nnyo abawala simanyi ndowooza kiri natural bwekyo naye mami's boy ono omuntu nga abadde nnyo ne maama we abasinga tuyinza okuba tuli bwe tutyo wano so kati who is daddy's girl era nga bwenkigaa nti yoyo omuntu nga ensonga obusonga butono nnyo bwagamba maama ebisinga abigamba taata yes okusinzira ku nzo ye daddy's girl
mashallah
naye ate bwe kijja mu bufumbo omanye
awe wali akabasaawo kuba kati awo mu bufumbo awo nze wenjagala
bwe kijja mu bufumbo nja kuteesa kanjogere ku saidi y'abaami nti nze tujja kukola pulaani njogere ne mukyala wange kale kangendere ku example ya Hanani nti oba mugambye tugule entebe za kala ki ne musalawo lemise mugambye tugule bbulu
tufune ku ideas endala katugula ttaka
kale byagula ttaka yes byagula ttaka tuliguzeewa ne tuteesaganya ne mukyala wange ne tukkiriziganya ffe nga nze ne mukyala wange nti kale tuligulewa saidi za Kawempe ne nyinzo ono mukyala ono talina nnyo waŋŋambe saagala ate sijja mugamba nti ngenda kwebuuza ku maama bwe mba mami's boy sijja kumugamba nti ngenda kwebuuza ku maama naye nsobola genda ne neebuuza ku maama maama ayinza okugamba mwasazeewo Kawempe naye makererawo nawo nina akataka kwegamba n'okomawo n'ofuna engeri tomugamba nti I asked my mother no ekyate oba ozeeyo endowooza ya kito
lwaki tomugamba nti I asked my mother
anti kati sheikh kiki kyentya abakyala bano naturally balina obujja ekyo sijja kikweka ajja kufuna obujja olw'okuba mbuuzizza maama wange bo bwe bali bwe bati obujja it is naturally.
Obujja mbadde manyi bukola ku bakyala
Mm-hmm.
like abakyala bennyini mukyala na mukyala.
Ndowooza ne mami sani nabo bujjawo.
Awuliramu
ajja funamu obujja.
N'ojja oyagala ne ma.
Ajja funamu.
Abantu bebaagaza ne bazadde baabwe.
Yensonga lwaki simugamba nti nabuuziza nanga osobola okufuna engeri gy'ogamba nti naye okusinziira endowooza nayiseeko eyo kwega n'ofuna engeri gy'oyitamu ekyamama naye nga tomugambye. Yes.
Okay, mashallah. I think let me kampe yoli omuye kaye then. Abasigaye tujja kuteeseza mu maze inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Seka kyetutegeera ku Mami's Boy ye musajja nga yakola ne characters ez'ekikyala nyingi.
Musajja akola ki?
Nga alina characters
ez'ekikyala
nga nyingi naye okwebuuza ku maama wo
ez'ekikyala zitya ng'ayogera nga bakazi.
Kati ekyokugeza family mufuna ebizibu ewaka naye ojja kusanga taata atudde mu maaso g'abaana be ne mukyala we okuba balinamu ebizibu naye n'akaaba kuba balina ebizibu. Kati abasajja tusuubira
nga sema kaakaaba.
Yes, naye nga tusuubira nti omukyala yafunamu ekizibu n'akaabya mu maaso ga bbaawe tekirina buzibu. So kati waliwo karakita nga tuzimanyi mu bakyala so si mu baami kati nga
kati omusajja ono yakola ennyo ne maama we atuuka lawira nga olu emotion lino lusukkamuko.
Si ekyo seka kyentegeeza si kubanga wakola ne maama wo oyinza okuba nga oli mulenzi family y'abawala bokka gye wakuliramu n'okula nga olinamu enneeyisa ey'abakyala. So okwebuuza ku mami wo tekikufuula Mami's Boy. Ayinza okuba nga yekka gwe olinamu bantu bosobola okwebuuzaako tekikufuula Mami's Boy naye characters z'okubanga zirina engeri gye zaava ennyo mu basajja n'oyisa mu ngeri y'ekikyala.
Abakyala bagambye okwebuuza ku mami
tekinfuula ekyo.
Okay, barakallahu fikum. The reason as to why I asked that because of the sensitivity in marriage. But now you respect other relationships because life is not all about only marriage spouses. Now okimanyi what put you together is only part of what makes your reality. I think that is a reality. Kati for example, how do you even get shallow to a way of thinking? Nti okwebuuza ku muntu it means nta respecting nnyo gwe yeebuuzizaako okusinga gwe. Do you want me to remind you of realities ezidetermining omuntu okwebuuza ku muntu? Let me ask you gents, bameka kumwe aba prioritizing amagezi g'omukazi nga tonnaba kumuwasa? Muwanika mwekweka. How many of you work a lot onto your skills okumanya nti you're too much intelligent nga owulira nga mu program ye ya wiki makeup muteke ku mabbali obuyonjo muteke ku mabbali naye mulimu kono obwongo cognitively okubanga weetegese okubanga olowooza ku high speed? Of course, definitely namwe manyi muli batono. That means chances are high nti mu bufumbo it doesn't make sense to take it as a principle to olwokuba oli mukyala wa muntu olwokuba oli bba wa muntu because it goes both ways. It is sensitive in a way nti kasitogezaako n'olowooza nti kati olwokuba oli husband olwokuba oli wife kati every whatever relationship you've been having before kati jijjeewo nzaaliwo kuki? Maybe your husband deals with cars ewo mwe tewalina na bondi. Now you want this man to force himself akwebuuzeyo ku bintu ebikolana ne ku mmotoka gy'oli obitegeera nnyo. Of course it won't make sense wabanga alina gwabuzizaako gwategeera mu byaki. Now kati omuntu ayigenda okuyingira obufumbo, please understand it is okay. Those other relationships can still be there and your marriage is also there. The same applies with you. Nga mukola ebintu ebitagasa. You're the husband, you want to be a comedian, and you need to be a serious one. Katate, you're not supposed to be a joker. At times he's also supposed to joke. Your wife is telling you, please my husband, you're supposed to be everything in my life. You have to be a comedian in Sesamu. You have to just be everything. You're not going to manage. If she wants comedy, YouTube is there. Buy data, give her, let her laugh. People make her laugh. It is okay. she can still love from other comedians and you're still a husband untouched. Kisoboka oba tekisoboka? The same applies with her. If your husband is not a good listener, it's very possible because they are selective listeners. You're in two dimensions. Enyumya yo yemboze yawukanira ddala n'engeri gy'akola ki? Gy'anyumyamu. Have you checked out how we talk with each other and how you talk with your fellow girls? It is very okay. Get your friend who is a girl. Mukube emboozi zammwe mu mbeera z'ekikyala. It has nothing to do with his position as a husband. Kasamutamugeya, kasamutamumanyiira. Munyumye ebyammwe eby'ekikyala. What's the problem with that? It is very possible to be a husband and you have your friend who is a man. N'onyumya naye ebintu byo. It doesn't basically mean you have disrespected your wife olw'okuba munno omukoze eki omutegeezezzaako. Are you understanding the approach I'm giving this? Now, other relationships that are in your lives also matter and get to a point of understanding they are not threats. Kati for example, omuzadde n'omuzadde. A young girl like you, you're too defensive. Tonaana kuyingira bufumbo bwonna. Naye oli defensive ku nnyazaalawo gw'otonaana kumanya. People go through it. Ku mulembe gwabwe mwe guno eno. Oba single mother bufuuse oba single mother, oba single father oba single father. Chances are high nti mukyalawo single father yamukuza. What do you expect from that relationship? Of course waba ina kwebuuzaawo ku taata we. Ate okwebuuza kitegeeza. People who are at university, you need to understand. Okwebuuza, you need to get an idea from someone. Taking that idea doesn't mean bonna abakuwadde amagezi basiru. It basically means that idea is working at that particular time, but you thank others because they have widened your scope. Now you get to a point of even disrespecting parents. Boy, no atokuwa ekitiibwa. Now when we get to the parents, the parents bemwagala okuteekako ekifuba, taata w'omuwala ne maama w'omuki ne maama w'omulenzi. Okujjako nga otandise okulaba nti beeyagala kuba kati ensi yatagala dda. Otandika otya okubeera unserious, mufune ku byokkola ebirala. Otandika otya okubeera unserious to a level nti kati you're too concerned lwaki bbaawo ayogera nnyo ne maama we nnyo, lwaki mukyalawo ayogera nnyo ne taata we oba ne bazadde be. What is your problem? For 25 years and 35 years, ani abadde awamu n'amagezi? You've not been around. Abadde yeebuuza ku baani w'otabadde. Tomusanze nga mulamu. Chances are high okubanga gwe gwaleese ogenda muwa amagezi mafu. Akagenda omusiraanya. Kati omusajja oyo akole ki? Lahi, we need to be open-minded when it comes to that. Now, the sensitivity in marriage is going to, and we got all this from the Islamic wisdom. Era ffe tusigalira nnyo abantu abatatola time to learn their religion. Ebintu bingi bihappeninga wano eno. Katemba mungi ali mu relationships z'abantu wano baselessly. Ennugu simanya nazaala okusanga nazaala nsanga amalaalo. Yahe baali bagamba nazaala ezo stories z'abantu. Wait for your story. Maybe it's a different story. Wallahi al-azim, you don't want to start a relationship nga bbaawo teyeyagala na maama we. Because ono musajja, he learns how to treat a lady from the way he treats the female figures in his circle. Ono mukyala, he's learning the way to treat you as a husband from the male figures in her social circle. Kati teriyo musajja agenda beera bbaawo nga beewalana ne maama we olw'okuba gwe ozze mu play mukatolooze nti bakwagala nnyo. This man is too unserious, mubi nnyo mu kusembayo wabanga asobodde okuyisaamu mu relationships ez'amaaso, mbukati yeebaza ggwe ayingiddewo. Tamanyi na kumanya how long are you going to be there in marriage. Tamanyi na kumanya olina makulu ki g'omuleetera. Ayinza n'okuzuula nti olina nnyo n'oba olina nnyo amakulu. The world goes beyond the two of you. Families zeegasse, kati families bbiri, taata wono waba taatawo, maama wono waba, families zikoze musahara. Ne Allah atuuka n'okukyogerako nti n'oluganda nawe weeruli kati abantu families zeegatta olw'okuba abantu bakoze batya? Bali babiri in marriage. So please, as a Muslim, you need to understand that is a reality you need to take back home. Let other relationships be there ebbanga likimalanga tekiri directed to waliwo emboozi. There is a discussion you can jazz with your friend nga mbutuufu ya kisiru nnyo. Kisoboka oba tekisoboka? N'otyamu nti w'ogyogerako ne mukyala we agenda kukumanyira. Kisoboka oba tekisoboka? Or maybe your in-laws, your brothers. What is your relationship, the relationship of your brothers and your wife? Mwena mulowooza mu bwenzi, bagenda kweyagala. What do you mean by that? Mwena tebabakuza mubuukira buukizi bakyala we mutyo? It is also a possibility nti tebagenda kukola ki? Tebagenda kweyagala. But how are they going to relate now? Alhamu al-maut. The Prophet is like the in-laws baganda abo, because of the sensitivity in marriage, bateekeddwa kimanya nti enkolagana yaabwe is guided with that sensitivity. When I'm talking to my wife about my brother, I need to be sensitive because I need the same wife to respect the in-law. Katolokuba temuyina mboozi, temuyina kibagatta, ekyabagatta just bwagazi, kati temuyina byakunyumyako. You need to just jazz about other people, in-laws. My brother, yali nno mubbi myaka gye 10 awo, naye bamuwadde obwa imam. My brother, yake, get serious. You're talking about all that and you expect the same person to do what? Byateetaaga kumanya. Muganda wajja kuba akyalanga ewaka bw'asalako naye nga mukyala wa kimanyi nti oyo yali mubbi emyaka 2 emabega. Bamusibako ne mukomera naye ng'omusajja watu yakola ki? Yakola tauba. You're disrespecting your family kulwokuba totegeera. The same applies with you. Ebintu ng'ebyo byogerako nga okimanyi nti you are affecting the relationship of other people. Kati muganda waawulira atya mukyala wo abanga tasobodde kwefuga mu emotions n'akikubawo tikali awo kamanyira naye kaali kabbye emyaka 2 amabega. Definitely gwa babikoze eki? Gwa babyogedde. Now please let us understand that sensitivity as we are switching into marriages. Yes, musobola okubeera abafumbo, be in marriage, naye nga bawo kyatasobola kukola kifune walala naddala kasa kibanga obufumbo just buwa access ku biology. Siwe kiri? Kyekikusazuza amahale. You give him the dowry to make sure you play biologically. Anything besides that. Kati for example, bawo tasomanga na ku dini. He's not a sheikh, not even well versed with Islam. Kati mboyala kwebuuza ku Busiraamu, kati naye ali mu kunyiiga. Mukyala wange tanneebuuzaawo ku bintu bya Busiraamu, simutegeera, abuuza bawalimu. What do you expect? Tomanyi ddiini, that's why tawuli mu kubuuza. Alina kubuuza muntu ategeera ki? Naawe mulinde mu by'okubajja, wajja okubuuliza nti kati njagala kubajja kino, because that is your... I think it is too understandable in that case. For example, mukyala wo, now my wife is not a sheikhat. Not a sheikhat. Ali mu field ndala, expertise ye eri mu field ndala nnyo. Kati munange njagala kubuuza bintu bya kiwalimu, mufa okubuuza bali mu bannange, kati ngate ntandika kubuukira mukyala wange. Nti bannaye waliwo kino ekizze ekyobuwalimu. Of course, definitely tagenda kukola ki? Kubana kyakuŋŋamba. Naye bwe mbanga njagala okubuuza mu field gy'alimu gye yakenkukamu, I'm like, okay, now come on the table. That makes sense. Ndoza kategerekese. Now you need to know how to navigate through this sensitivity when you start marriage. The objective is obufumbo buwangale mukko nammwe mubujjeemu ebintu by'ekyana ekiki ekito. Yes, buwangale mukko mubeerewo nga mukimanyi nti bintu bijja kutambula. Yes, these claims of making sure bannaye bba wange ateekeddwa okuba nga ye best friend wange, what does that mean? Because a husband is far better than a best friend. Mugambire dda bba ateekeddwa okuba nga akumanyi, actually akumanyi nnyo n'okusinga best friend golowooza nti akukola ki? Akumanyi. Yes, naye obanga okyogera nga tokirowoozezzaako, best friend kitegeeza you need to just talk n'omuntu nga tofuddeeyo kumanya omuntu ono agenda kuwulira atya. Olaba ne ba best friends olina okuba sensitive to some extent. Bw'olwokuba namukwano gwange omumpi nze ndi muwanvu netwejerega alina bwatuuka naye ne bimutama ntansusseeko kisoboka wali kisoboka abo nno nga ba mikwano nti ansusseeko buli kaseera ndiko nvumaako olwero mpezaamu ennaku 2 naye oddemu naye buli kaseera oli mumpi bw'atya ku bantu abafumbo ababiri. Yes, you have to get to know all those dynamics. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to the best. And I want to conclude my presentation today with 2 issues. Issue number 1, because of the sensitivity in marriage, try your level best to be respectful and act respectful when you're angry. Yes. If you're upset with your partner in marriage, keep it professional. Onyize, you're upset because of any reason, because that is a reality. You must get upset. But be respectful even when you're going through it. Yes, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to the best. Techikola nnyo mawulire kubanga you consider the emotions and you don't go through that reality. Tulina okubawulwa abali wano. Tusaba Allah abalungamye. Inna ma'al usri yusra. You need to understand that whenever there is difficulty, there are smiles to come after some time. And secondly, by embracing sensitivity, we can transform our marriages into a haven of peace. Yeah, if you're sensitive about how your wife might feel because of what you're going to say, because of what you're going to do, then definitely it's going to be a peaceful environment for your wife. And if your wife is also sensitive, sensitive about your emotions, your logical and so on, because at least mokoze justice and you're sensitive, you've respected that. Empathy with everyone is empathetic with the other and so on. And lastly, being sensitive says more about you than it does about your spouse. If you're sensitive and you respect that sensitivity in marriage, it builds your character more than the way it builds your spouse's character. Now, if you can't be sensitive for the sake of your spouse, at least be sensitive for your own sake. We're creating a space ey'emirembe. Now, tewaliwo bantu bagenda kusinga kweyagala nga bantu bali sensitive in marriage. Beyagala nnyo. Yes, and contentment ebera at the highest peak. But the problem is because we are attacked by many factors in our society. Tulwanyisa bingi nnyo mu society oba okyamaliriza kino ne wabaawo ekiyingirawo ate nga waliwo abalina okigoberera kubanga tebalina nnyo kyakkola kate mwogenda okuwasa oba yagenda okuwasa oyo kale tabbeera ebeerawo nga mwewasizza kirero nnyo mwaka gumu 2-5 nga mwegoba, which is okay kubanga yamumina kwegoba. Tusaba Allah abeere nga alungamya obufumbo bw'abasiraamu bonna. And ekisinga n'okunsanyusa, many of us prepare ourselves for irresponsible people. Bw'abeera musajja, you're preparing yourself for a big-headed lady. Gotanaba na kufuna. Wagoyinga da defensive. Tabawala b'ennaku zino bayaaye. Gy'oli ogenda wasa bonna. Kati buli akujjira olaba muyaaye. Kadde Allah kyakola akuleetera muyaaye bintu byanguwe. N'akufera ne mutandika obufumbo. Kati omaze omufuna ate olowooza Allah tayanukudde eddwazi. The same applies with a girl. You're preparing yourselves for irresponsible men. I need to get done with university. Mfune omulimu. After I get work, nezimbire akayumba kubanga abasajja beekyanga. That is your motive. Abasajja bakola ki? Neweetegeka emyaka 25 oli mukwetegeka n'okoona 3 ng'olina ettaka olina emmotoka because you're preparing, you're independent, which is very okay. Thank you. But the question is, who is a responsible man that is going to look for you? Musajja kyali responsible anoonya omukyala agenda okumuwa ku ssente. Abali responsible anoonya abakyala be bagenda kuwa ssente. Kati naye Allah kyakola ng'akuleetera bano abaavu. Ng'asooka akuwaana. Ng'asooka akuliwamu obukadde obwo ng'ogamba naye omusajja ono anjagala ng'akuwasa. N'akubbawo ku kyapa n'akola bw'ati because you prepared yourself for him. Ate nga be bajja okujja if you're that. Kuba weebali temuliiwo wano wama wanika ku mukono. Abaagala abakyala balina ku ssente temuliiwo? Weebali seeka wuyo waali ayagala ku bakyala balina ku ssente. So what is the message there is just don't prepare yourself for the worst. Yes, be a good person. Be a good person because good attracts good. طيبات للطيبين والخبيثات للخبيثين. The good will always attract the good, and the filthy ones will always attract the filthy ones. Yes, that is the model of Islam. Tetukiinaako buzibu abantu wabeera wobanga oli mwenzi wano, the priority is funa mwenzi munno wano. Marriage will work for you. Kubanga mwefuna, you think the same, mwenna you experience the same, byebimu bufumbo buyinza okutambula ate nga tebujja kutambula. Wobanga oli kawala kampisa toli muntu w'abasajja, lwaki onoonya omuvubuka ategeera ebyabakazi yabiyigira bakosi kyebisomesa? Alina kubanga naye fala, at least abenga yakola tauba yeesirwaza abenga tabitegeera, omanye nti at least akirinamuko ne ku nsonyi. But this man is busy saying, the problem is you don't know anything. For me, I've been in many relationships. Now, we have been in these things. It has to be a red flag to you. Yabiyigira away. So may Allah guide you to the best. Allahumma amin. May Allah guide us all to the best. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Kujja nga waliwo alina kyabuuza. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.